My boyfriend Michael and I had a great day, and I went home in high spirits, full of positive emotions and warm, tender feelings for my soulmate. I couldn't believe how happy I was. After all, Michael was better than any guy I could have ever dreamed of. However, as soon as I approached my house, my mood changed to horror. The doors were open. Some people were carrying furniture, equipment, and our things outside. And my parents stood aside watching it happen. It was clear from their faces that something terrible had happened. I hurried over to them and asked what was going on. My parents told me that all our property was being confiscated and that we were bankrupt. Bankrupt. We had lost everything. Absolutely everything that we had. Everything my parents earned with their years of back-breaking work. How? How was this possible? Could it all have collapsed overnight? After all, just this morning, everything was fine. There weren't any signs of trouble. As usual, we laughed, we joked, and made plans for the future. And now this? It all looked like a terrible nightmare that I wanted to wake up from as soon as possible. I didn't know what to do. The first thing that came to mind was to call Michael and tell him everything. But his phone was off. In fact, from that day on, his phone was never on again. And as it turned out, that date was the last time we saw each other. Hi, my name is Rebecca. And recently, because of my gullibility and naivety, my family went bankrupt. Everything happened so fast that at first I had no idea that I was the one to blame, and that my boyfriend Michael was directly related to the situation. But how? Well, you'll find out. I'm the daughter of a businessman. My dad is the owner of a large investment company. I always thought that I was lucky to be born into this particular family because I was always guaranteed stability and prosperity. And I never even entertained the thought that all this could end in an instant. I've been singing since I was a kid. I really like to sing, and I think I'm pretty good at it. I often perform at my school, at city festivals, and once even won a vocal competition. I think that shows that I have a certain level of skill. Several months ago, I performed at a Mother's Day concert. Everything went well. I sang my favorite song, shone on stage, and in my opinion, was able to do better than ever before. The audience's reaction told me so, too, which was the best reward I could have asked for. But immediately after my speech, something happened that turned my world upside down. And as it turned out later, my parents' world too. Backstage, a very handsome guy approached me, looking like he'd escaped from the cover of a magazine. He was carrying a huge bouquet of flowers. He handed it to me, saying that he was delighted with my performance. It was love at first sight. I looked at him and realized that I had dreamed about a guy like him all my life. God, I can't even describe in words how suave and irresistible he was. His hair, his eyes, the timbre of his voice, the way he moved, everything about him betrayed confidence and strength. As you may have guessed, it was Michael. He walked me home, we exchanged phone numbers, and I could no longer think of anyone or anything but him. He occupied all my thoughts. It was almost like I caught a virus, and the virus was him. This all happened right after the first meeting, but I actually liked it. The very next day, Michael invited me to a cafe and asked me to become his girlfriend. Well, as you already know, I agreed. A boyfriend. Now I would have a boyfriend. The girls would all be jealous, I thought. Although, more importantly, my feelings for Michael were mutual. We saw each other and hung out every day. We knew that we were made for each other. Michael had exactly the same hobbies as me: music, skating, graffiti. He, like me, didn't like fish, but simply adored squid. There were so many coincidences. Michael also very quickly insisted on meeting my parents. I didn't want to get them involved, but my boyfriend assured me that this was necessary for our relationship, because we were getting serious. And in some ways, he was right. So I agreed. I was sure my parents would like Michael and things would go well. But something went wrong. My parents were very wary of him. I got the feeling that they didn't like him. although he came with gifts and behaved like a gentleman. I was very upset about it. When Michael left, my parents said that they didn't like him. They didn't think he was very sincere. Mom asked to take a closer look at him, and Dad told me not to bring him to our house again. But I still didn't understand what exactly they didn't like. And since my parents couldn't explain the reason why they disliked Michael to my satisfaction, I kept meeting up with him and even invited him home when no one else was there. The fact is that my dad had a collection of books on American history, and Michael was very interested in history, so we often hung out in my dad's office and read them. And I was even proud of my boyfriend. Some people have never read a single book in their lives, but he was different. Smart, talented, purposeful. It's a pity that my parents didn't like him, but I hoped that one day they would accept him. One day, Michael was hanging out as usual in my dad's office, and I was making sandwiches for us in the kitchen. And since there was no cheddar cheese in the fridge, the kind my boyfriend likes best, I decided to ask him if I could make him a sandwich with mozzarella. As soon as I opened the door to my father's office, Michael suddenly jumped up, startled. But he wasn't reading history books at all, but going through the desk drawers. I asked him what was going on, and he hesitated for a moment, then replied that he was trying to find a notebook and pen to write something down. It seemed very strange to me because a notebook and pen were lying right on the table. It was simply impossible not to notice them. But why would he want the contents of my father's desk? What did he want to find there? Michael assured me that everything was fine and that I needed to just trust him. Of course, I couldn't be angry with him and jump to conclusions because he was right. The most important thing in a relationship is trust. How could I ever think anything bad about my boyfriend? I decided to just drop all my doubts and bad thoughts and enjoy our relationship. This went on for about a month. And once my parents came home early, and of course, Michael had no choice to go unnoticed. Dad was furious because he saw my boyfriend going through his drawers and immediately kicked him out. We had a serious conversation. My parents were very angry with me and said that they were unhappy with my behavior. Dad strictly forbade me to meet with Michael and threatened that if I didn't obey him, I would face very serious punishment. This time I was very upset with my parents. They don't know Michael at all. How could they talk badly about him and even forbid me to meet and talk to him? Of course, it never crossed my mind to listen to them. My feelings for Michael were more important to me. We kept dating, but I didn't want my boyfriend to come to my house again, and I told him so. However, Michael again managed to persuade me to let him into my father's office. He said that he had already read almost all the books, and there was only a little bit left. I couldn't resist his charm. When Michael came to my house for the last time, everything seemed normal. He went over to the books and asked me to wait for him in the living room. After 30 minutes, he came out in high spirits and invited me to go for a walk. He said that he would no longer ask me to let him into my father's office and that this was the very last time. I was very happy about this news. We had a great time that day, and then someone called Michael and he said he had to go. He couldn't even walk me home. But it didn't matter because I was head over heels in love with him and didn't pay attention to unimportant things like that. And what happened when I got home, you already know. Panic, fear, horror, the collapse of all my dreams, and emptiness. We didn't understand at all what was happening, and it seemed that it was just a nightmare that might end at any moment. But everything was real. We had to go live with my grandmother. My dad had to find out who set him up like that and why. A criminal case had been opened against his firm on the basis of fraud. But my dad and his staff had absolutely nothing to do with it. Soon, everything became clear. The truth hurt me to my core. Dad's lawyer managed to find out that one of his competitors, the owner of another investment company, had set him up. And he turned out to be Michael's father. Strange coincidence, isn't it? And the more details we learned, the more terrible I felt. It turned out that Michael's father had sent him to me on purpose. He knew that his son would be able to win my heart and be able to use me to get to my dad's office. Then it became clear why Michael was looking through the desk drawers. I felt incredibly ashamed in front of my parents, because I trusted this jerk, and now the whole family was suffering. And yes, I didn't immediately believe that Michael was even capable of something like that. But his phone has been switched off since then, and I have no more information about him. It hurts to feel used, and I will never forget this lesson. I no longer believe in love and sincerity, and I'm not sure I can ever trust anyone. After such a betrayal, it's really difficult to recover, and I don't know yet if it's even possible at all. Would you be able to trust people again after this? Write your answers in the comments. Press the like button under this video, and be sure to subscribe to our channel to be the first to watch new videos tomorrow.